Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another Walking Dead video. So I want to talk about a couple of things here regarding The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon Season 2, and I really wanted to focus on Codron's character because I do think that this season is likely going to be the last season that we have him in, because it just kind of makes sense based off of where I think his story could go that he is likely going to die here in Season 2, and I just wonder if it's going to be more of a redemption arc, because we sort of saw that a little bit in Season 1 here. So I do want to talk about that and also talk about the possibility of actually having Merle more connected with the story here in Season 2. So before we go any further, make sure to be a subscriber if you do want to get all my Walking Dead content like this. Tomorrow, I think Daryl Dixon Season 1 is actually going to be on Netflix. I'm pretty sure it was August 19th was the day that Daryl Dixon Season 1 was going to be on Netflix, and so I definitely will be watching it if it's on Netflix, just because I don't know why, it's just easier to watch it if it's on Netflix. But yeah, if it's there, I mean, because I haven't rewatched it yet since it aired last year, so it'll be nice to actually go back and check out the season and just see how it compares to The Ones Who Live specifically, because The Ones Who Live was obviously the last Walking Dead show that I watched, right? Well, I watched the original series more recently, a couple of episodes anyways from the original series, so it'd be kind of cool to just compare Daryl Dixon Season 1 to The Ones Who Live. And yeah, I imagine there's going to be a lot more excitement for The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon Season 1 as soon as everybody watches it on Netflix. And I do think that this is very smart by AMC to actually have the show premiere on Netflix a month beforehand, right? Like, it's a little over a month, but I think a lot of people seeing that show because it's a really popular show. And the one thing that I will say though about The Walking Dead in general is that having the shows on AMC Plus almost makes it a bit harder to watch The Walking Dead, like in terms of ratings and all that, because I know that they've lost ratings over the years, but you gotta remember, most people have Netflix, right? Like, that's why The Walking Dead does so well on Netflix. Like, it's always like in the top 10, most viewed shows of the year, or I think it was like that last year in 2023. So like, again, for Daryl Dixon, it's gonna be very similar, right? A lot of people are gonna check it out, and again, Netflix will promote the show a lot, right? Like, it's a really well done show, and I really like the first season, and I think that everyone checking out those first 6 episodes are gonna be like, whoa, this is very different. Like, this is Daryl Dixon in France. This is a really good show, that I think people are going to look up, as Season 2 and what happens with that. And obviously they'll see that it's airing right away. And that's what AMC's plan is, right? Is for everybody to check it out, because there's going to be a lot of people who check it out for the first time on Netflix. And a lot of them are going to be wondering about the next season. And they'll find out that it's airing September 29th on AMC Plus, because it's happened a lot with Breaking Bad back in the day. Like, Breaking Bad really wasn't heard about until like the last season or two, and it was because it went to Netflix, and a lot of people checked out like however many seasons of the show and were like, whoa, this is a really amazing show, and then watched the last season or two or whatever it was. I think it was the last season, but yeah, watch that on AMC when it actually aired and all that, which obviously was very successful for them, right? So that's what they're trying to do here with The Walking Dead. I think it's smart. It definitely is. Fall is here, and I've been seeing a lot of previews and stuff for the fall season of TV, because summer's winding down now, so people are starting to get back into the whole thing of, I don't know, like work and school and all of that, right? And like watching TV especially, every fall is like the biggest time of the year, because that's where a lot of TV shows premiere, and The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon Season 2 is premiering next month. And so let's focus on what I wanted to talk about here, which is Codron's character potentially sacrificing himself here in this season. A lot of that is because of this shot right here. You do see him very wounded here, and it seems like he's yelling for people to sort of, maybe get out of the way, or just like leave him behind, just go right now, because I don't know what it is. Maybe there's something that's happening that is, it's gonna happen right now kind of thing, so you gotta leave, and he's sacrificing himself, right? I could just see it with the character because of who the character was in Season 1. I mean, obviously he was always sort of, first of all, he really was not really that well known overall. I thought he was a part of Madame Genet's group, Pouvoir, for quite a while, but he just joined the group in Season 1, and I think that, obviously we saw at the end there that he's not necessarily bad, right? Like, he's not that type of person overall. Like, yes, he was very angry about what happened to his brother and the fact that Daryl killed him, or at least that's what he thought, right? And did Daryl kill him though? I don't remember if it was him or if it was the other people in the scene, because I know a lot of stuff happened. I think Daryl, I know he was there. I just don't know if Daryl like specifically killed his brother or if it was somebody else in the scene. But Codron's gonna learn from that, and I think that's what we'll see a lot in Season 2 is him dealing with his brother's loss and just sort of how do you move past this. I don't think it's gonna be one of those things where, Codron ends up like, friends with Daryl or anything like that, but I could see him maybe saving Daryl and other people, maybe because of something that Madame Genet is doing and something that he really disagrees with. So it's more of, I guess giving him meaning in his life and whatnot. And I think that it makes sense that it's probably going to be something that does happen this season. First of all, amazing shot, like really amazing shot here of him. And there's a plane behind him. Is that Carol's plane? It looks very similar to Carol's plane. And I wonder if Madame Genet found the plane and then brought it here, because it looks like it's a totally different place from where Carol landed, right? Could be a different plane, but I wonder if that's a part of the story here, is them trying to leave. Like, that's why I feel like the character of Ash, we know that he's going to be with Carol in France, but at some point, I feel like he's probably going to die because we don't see any footage of him later on, right? Like, we see nothing of him in, like, later scenes of, I guess, the story overall. And so I just wonder if he dies in the first, like, episode, or maybe episode 2, probably in episode 2, most likely. And, obviously he's the pilot, so they'll have to find another pilot, I guess, to get back, right? And I just think that maybe that's a mission in season 2, is that once Carol finds Daryl and they deal with some of the stuff happening at the nest, that they're like, you know what, we're going to go back to that plane, this and that, and maybe Madame Genet just destroys the plane so they can't, leave and go back to America that way. Because obviously that's going to be a focus this season, is they're all going to decide to go back. Like, Daryl's going to convince Isabel, Laurent, and everyone to come back to America with him. So, first of all, that plane's too small for all of them to go back, right? So they'll probably have to find a ship of some kind to be able to get back to America. And that's going to be a big focus for season 3, right? Is like, how do they get back to America? And I think whatever happens this season in their journey to get back to America, and just what's happening with Madame Genet, leads them to Spain for some reason. So I think the variant walkers are going to take over. I think that's really what's going to happen in France. Is it's going to get too crazy where they lose the nest and they're just forced to leave. And they're probably going to hear about something throughout the season of like, oh, if you go to Spain, there's this person here that can fly a plane, or maybe there's a ship there or something like that. So I think that's going to be, a focus for season 3. And I just think, going back to Codron's story here, I think another thing that would be really cool about, ending his story here in season 2, just in terms of, if what he went through, I guess, in terms of a redemption arc and just, losing his brother, creates all of these similarities to Daryl's story with Merle, right? And I don't know what Codron's relationship was with his brother. There's a lot of stuff like that maybe they get into this season, but Daryl's story with Merle, like, they both lost brothers, first of all. And this could be a focus, like maybe just how Daryl dealt with Merle's death being an inspiration for Codron and how he deals with his brother's death. Like, I think it would be really cool if there was a scene of, there has to be this season where you see Codron and Daryl together, but they're not fighting each other this time, right? Maybe they're just talking about stuff. And Daryl says, I had a brother, talks about just sort of, what happened there and just with the governor and how he dealt with that and everything, right? And I could totally see a scene like that happening here, because, there's no way the whole story between Codron and Daryl is over, that they're not going to share a scene together. I think that it is going to happen here for sure this season. And, that's one aspect to it where when you look at season 1, like, Daryl should understand that, right? Like, Codron losing his brother and him wanting to fight back and all that. Like, Daryl should totally understand why he's doing that. Like, Codron's not really necessarily a villain. Like, he wants revenge and he joined the villain side. But if you really look at it from his perspective, you can kind of understand it. And I think Daryl could understand that. And I think it would be really cool if these two characters honestly could, like, it would be really cool if Codron didn't actually die, because I think you can actually develop the character into a really incredible character that can really relate with Daryl a lot, right? And it'd be so cool to have him in Daryl's group as well, right? Like, because then you have this really awesome group of like Daryl, Carol, Isabel, Codron, and then obviously Laurent. But it's so hard to say right now because there's also a lot of other characters, like there's Losang, right? And Falou, and I don't know if they're going to be in Daryl's group after season 2. I think Daryl's group, which is kind of cool that we're calling it that, because we've always called it Rick's group, right? In The Walking Dead. I think we'll know more of what this group is going to be after season 2, because whoever is with Daryl traveling to Spain, that's going to be the group right there. Like, okay, Daryl has a new group here. They're all going to Spain. They're a family, right? And so that's going to be really what forms here in season 2, which makes sense when you really look at season 1 and 2 of The Walking Dead, because it was very similar in that way. I think season 1, you had everyone come together, but you didn't really know who was staying and who was going to be on this journey together. In season 2, they ran to Herschel's farm, and that you met a lot of characters there. But in terms of of who was staying there, I mean, obviously you kind of knew more of the main characters and you sort of understood entirely who was, you know, going to be a part of the main group a little bit more. But I think after losing the farm and going to, you know, I guess the governor arc and all that into season 3, that's where you really understood, okay, this is Rick's group right here. Like, this is the main group. And I think that's where that group was like officially formed, was like in season 3. And so I could totally see the same thing here happening for Daryl Dixon season 3. And that's why I'm really concerned about season 2 in terms of, you know, who they kill off with characters, because there's a lot of characters I really like. Like, I really like Isabel as a character. And I think if you killed her off in season 2, it would just be such a big mistake because there's a lot of potential with that character. Like, fans love that character, and honestly, she was a really amazing part of season 1, and just more proof that with really amazing writing and good casting that you can actually really create amazing Walking Dead characters, right? Like, you don't have to just keep holding on to like the old original cast. Like, you can bring newer characters into the story. It was the same thing with Connie as well. Connie was such an incredible character, and you just need good writing. That's all it is, right? You just really need good writing and good, I mean, first of all, casting as well. Like, you have to cast the part correctly, but if you do that well, fans are going to like those characters. Then you have really awesome characters that are, you know, just there in the story. I think that's one of the issues with like World Beyond and some of the other spinoffs as well, is like, I think some of the roles were just cast wrong, you know. And so but Daryl Dixon so far, you know, season 1 anyways, we'll see about season 2, but there hasn't been a role that's been miscast yet, so I'm excited. I really can't wait for season 2. So yeah, I'll leave it here though. Definitely post your thoughts down below. Do you think that Codron's gonna die this season, and do you think that there could be a story between him and Daryl this season, and you know, possibly bringing up Merle and all that, because you know that they do want to like connect a lot of stuff from the past, and Daryl didn't really talk about Merle too much. I don't even know if he mentioned him at all. I feel like there was one reference to him having a brother, but I don't know if it was Merle specifically or if he was more talking about Rick. So I think talking about Merle, even talking about Rick, like that's a whole other thing this season as well, is like, is Daryl going to find out about Rick? It all depends on whether or not Carol knows, right? I know a lot of people are saying Carol doesn't know. I read a lot of what was said before. I don't know if that's actually what it was. So I still think it's definitely, you know, the possibility of Daryl finding out about Rick is still there, and we'll have to wait and see. You know, I definitely feel very mixed on it. Like, do I want Daryl to find out? I do, but I just don't know if I want him to find out in that way. I'd almost prefer him to just like find out by just seeing Rick, right? Like, not finding out like, okay, so he's back, okay, he's safe. Like, I think it would be cool if Daryl went back and then found Rick and was like, whoa, completely stunned, right? I think that would be probably a better reveal. It means having to wait a little bit longer, I know, but I think it's almost a better reveal. But yeah, I don't know. Anyways, post your thoughts down below. Hope you guys all enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.